Hello and welcome to round 7 here at the end of day 1 of the World Magic Cup in Amsterdam. I'm Brian David Marshall and I am here with Hall of Famer-elect Luis Scott Vargas, and we are watching Team USA. We see a Stromkirk Noble come down against Team France, led by Hall of Famer Raph Levy.
And this game looks like it started out with a pair of mulligans for Raph Levy, so his opening hand is not really what you would call optimal.
Yeah, and he's going to be under the gun pretty quickly.
The Mutavault's kind of rearing its ugly head here, as you can see the Burning Tree Emissary that Jason would love to play turn 2.
Yeah, there you get a look at the lifetime earnings of Raph Levy. What exactly Jason Gulovich is up against. 546 career pro points, nearly $250,000 won, and a lifetime winning percentage at Grand Prix and Pro Tours in the 60s. How do you like Firefist Striker Mutavault as a combo, though?
That is a pretty nice combo. So even though the Mutavault is stopping Gulovich from playing the Burning Tree's Emissary here, he's still in really good shape. I mean, this would be a good start against a normal hand, and Raph not having a 1 or 2 drop is not something you can expect to happen out of mono green. In fact, this is going to be a very quick game if it continues on this trend.
and the hand he kept does not look like he's getting close to it anytime soon, huh?
No, he did draw a couple lands, which helps, but his hand is still got multiple Wolfir Silverhearts, which at 5 mana are really not going to come down early enough.
And that was enough for Raph Levy as he looked at his Wolfir Silverhearts and realized I'm not going to be able to recover quickly enough. Maybe we can hop across the table and
take a look at maybe the Jund Mirror. Yeah. We've got Chiquetti here.
We're going to go to the so we're going to be taking a look at
like I said, Daniel Chiquetti playing.
We're going to see a lot of
Jund.
Scavenging Oozes. We'd like to thank Card House Games for being an official card retailer here at Worlds Week. Enter the code AMS10 when ordering at cardhousegames.com for 10% off your next purchase. For more information, visit cardhouse.com. There you get a look at our competitors. That is David Chiquetti.
Daniel Chiquetti.
Daniel Chiquetti, sorry. I got the last name right and I screwed up the first name.
The last name was a tough one.
Timothy Simonot from France.
And we're seeing not an uncommon sight here, which is the Jund Mirror, but it's got a lot of play to it. That is one of the things that it is actually interesting.
Anything unique to either one of the decks? Or are they both playing kind of the same mix of creatures and spells?
Team USA is actually pretty heavily pre-boarded in the Jund matchup with a Duress and 2 Underworld connections in the main deck. That's intense. You do usually only see those in the sideboard, but as we've talked about before, the US team expect a lot of control and Jund decks, and that's where those cards really shine. The Jund Mirror is also the one that's gotten the most heavily impacted by the Legend rule. Since here, under a month ago, Simonot would just play his Olivia, kill both Olivias, and move on. Now, if he plays Olivia, Chiquetti can just untap, steal Olivia because she's a vampire, and then choose to keep his own and just put Simonot directly in the graveyard. So it definitely adds a new dimension, and because Chiquetti has an unanswered Olivia here, he's definitely ahead.
There you get a look at Olivia Voldaren.
He's the Reed Duke style, considering his card as if it were a bonfire, whether or not it is actually a bonfire. Reed often draws his cards like that, regardless of whether they're actually bonfire. It's good to keep your opponents on their toes when you got miracle cards. Yeah. It also reduces the chances that he accidentally draws a card when it wasn't. And as you can see, it was just a Thragtusk. It wasn't even a bonfire. So I like that play. I think that's not only a good habit to get into, but it also can provide a little bit of misdirection for your opponent.
Sure. But also a little bit of rigidity for yourself is what you're saying?
Yeah, because you're less likely to accidentally draw a bonfire that you would want to miracle when you just draw every card, put it aside from your hand just on the table, and then draw it to your hand. I'm not actually unhappy when bonfire tends to rotate, though, because drawing your miracle cards like that is just another thing you have to think about.
Yeah. So we see a Lifebane Zombie there for Timothy. And it did get a Huntmaster of the Fells, which is exiled off camera.
Yeah, and Lifebane Zombie is really one of the new additions out of M14 that a lot of the guys in the World Championship ended up playing, and a lot of the guys in the the team portion here at the Magic World Cup ended up playing.
Well, I mean, it regardless of what deck Semino was matched up against, it has a target.
Yeah, it's really, really hard to miss, and especially in this particular configuration of decks, since even the mono red deck has Boros Reckoners and Burning Tree Emissaries. Though again, those are a little hard to hit.
Yeah, but it would have in this matchup. It actually would have hit it because he had the turn 2 Mutavault.
Yeah, so that actually would have worked out. Daniel's got another pretty nice sequence of plays here with the Scavenging Ooze and the Olivia killing the Life Bane and immediately devouring it with the Ooze. So I would say that he's kind of in good shape here.
There's Rakdos Return.
Rakdos Return is kind of one of the most crucial cards in the mirrors, and the fact that he got hit by the Rakdos Return first is unfortunate for him. But unless Semino can answer his board, it's still, even emptying his hand is not really going to do enough. Another thing to consider here is you can actually use Olivia on your own creatures if you want to just grow Olivia. I wouldn't recommend killing them, but Scavenging Ooze can take a couple shots and still live to tell the tale.
Right. The reason you can't have more vampires on your team.
Sorry? Shoot twice. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 8.
Semino is quickly at 8.
And speaking of Olivia, that actually is what Daniel drew this turn. So even if Semino draws an answer to the Olivia in play, it's going to need another one. And, well, there goes an interesting card. Looks like Olivia is soon to head to the graveyard.
Yeah, it was interesting. I did a deck tech about this deck with Eric Froelich, and he was just talking about, like, basically every removal spell in the deck when they were building it was aimed at, you know, the critical question was, can I kill an Olivia?
Yeah, because the problem with like a card like Doomblade, which is very, very good, is that if you can't kill Olivia, sometimes you just lose straight up to it. It's one of the cards that actually Shi Tian Li played 4 in his main deck because he was, again, expecting a lot of Jund decks.
There you're going to look at Putrefy, which is what Semino just drew.
He's still, again, because Cicchetti drew a second Olivia, is in kind of a tough spot, since even though he's kind of forced to Putrefy the Olivia, again, having the first Olivia in play is so big because you're the one who can untap and use her 5 casting cost ability in order to steal the opposing Olivia.
Yeah. So he plays his own Scavenging Ooze, plays a land, removes Olivia, makes his ooze bigger.
Yeah, when you have dueling oozes here, if you're the one with less mana, you'd rather just use it immediately. Ooze can pretty much attack without fear because there's a Thragtusk in the graveyard ready to be eaten.
16. Yeah, that's true.
And the incidental life gain is not bad either.
Yeah. And a second Olivia.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be tough here. I mean, as good as Thragtusk we've got a lot of trouble dealing with an Olivia, since even though you gained a bunch of life, it's still pretty tough to get ahead if your opponent can just shoot or steal all of the creatures you play. But with Timothy at 3 life, he doesn't really have a whole lot of time, so he might just have to play the Thragtusk just so he doesn't die.
Right now he's technically just losing to flying
Yeah.
before getting to any other line of text.
Olivia just being a 3/3 flying creature is already enough to...
Oh, you played a Phantom Monster, huh? I guess I lose.
He's hitting with the Ooze, considering that if he does play the Thragtusk, he'll have a blocker anyway. So the one Olivia is still stranded, the Thragtusk being really the only play he has.
8.
Luckily, because it's Thragtusk, even if Daniel draws a 6 land and kills the Thragtusk, the Beast token can block the Ooze. Otherwise, Timothy would just be dead right on the spot.
With 1 green untapped, or this land's untapped.
Players start getting into mana fights over who gets to remove creatures first.
Yeah, and that's another fight that Timothy's kind of set up to lose. Though, even though they have the same amount of lands once Daniel plays the Stomping Ground, the fact that he's ahead means he's the one who's less likely to have to tap out. Also, his Ooze did get a head start, so He's looking pretty good here.
Putting his hand on his forehead in the universal symbol of Josh, I need your advice here.
Yeah, and Josh is the team captain and has chosen to sit out these rounds in order to coach his teammates. I think that he's going to have to spend a lot of time here in the blue-white flash mirror that Joe Spanier's playing, just because that is a complicated mirror. And even though Joe definitely plays well, having another set of eyes on it cannot hurt.
So he just shoots.
I like this line because it kills the Thragtusk, forces the token to chump the Scavenging Ooze, and then drops Timothy to 2 with the Olivia.
So you can get to 3 by removing the Thragtusk.
Good.
If he could, he's actually what 1 point short if he miracles a bonfire here, but miracle and bonfire actually would probably win him the game as it usually does. Tragic Slip would have been much more useful a turn or two ago when a lot of creatures were dying. Now it's going to be really hard to avoid just dying to that Olivia.
Are there any more creatures for either of them to be removing? And
it doesn't look like it, and especially since they've already eaten 4, I don't really know what else there is to consume. So I think unless Daniel chooses to use his Olivia in an unconventional fashion, it looks like his own Olivia is gonna fly over for the victory here. Though actually he could. No, it actually does work because he can steal the Olivia, choose to put it into the graveyard, then it gets to Timothy gets to Tragic Slip Daniel's Olivia. So this game is not over yet. It's still not looking great because they're going to end up with no cards in hand.
the judge gets a quick primer on the new legend rules.
Yeah. So it looks like we're going to go to empty hands, but Daniel with a better Scavenging Ooze and the Thragtusk he's just drawn. So this game ended up being very close considering this is what's about to happen.
Yep. So in case you're wondering what's going on under the new legend rules, if a second copy comes under your control or into play under your, when you have 2 of the same legend or same planeswalker name, you get to choose which one stays and which one goes.
Yeah, so that does give Timothy the opportunity to Tragic Slip the Olivia now.
And gain a little life on the...
Off his own Olivia dying. He ended up not using the Scavenging Ooze to fight there. It looks like Daniel's keeping his mana up. So Tragic Slip was a good draw, actually. It did require the use of his Olivia, so he is kind of back down to square 0, but at least...
and requires an understanding of what your opponent's going to do.
Yeah, which I would expect both these players to have at this point. But it does put it back to a very close game where you're kind of behind on life here. His Ooze is big. It's 5/5 versus Daniel's 5/4 Ooze, or 4/4 Ooze, and since he has enough mana untapped, Daniel cannot... Timothy is able to stop Daniel from eating his own creature with Ooze.
Just looking over at table 1 while we're winding this down, and I see a Druid's Familiar in play.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier because
paired with a Predator Ooze.
Frank Karsten, teased that a certain Hall of Famer has a Druid's Familiar in their deck, and Sheldon correctly guessed Raph Levy, and in fact, that's who it was.
No blocks.
Oh, there's a Kessig Wolf Run.
So drawing the Wolf Run was actually amazing. So now, actually, Daniel's the one on the back foot here. He needs to draw a way to kill a creature, or he's going to just die to the Wolf Run, barring a large Thragtusk block. But he's not able to kill Timothy because he only has a 4/4 Ooze in play. So now it's time to count Wolf Run mana. So Wolf Run looks like it'll get the Ooze up to an 11. Daniel's going to go up to 7 and have 7 toughness. So it looks like once again we might be in the trading market here. And he's going to want to play that land. You generally want to play your lands in the Jund Mirror just because of Rakdos return, but with Scavenging Ooze in play, it becomes fairly necessary. He could actually just cast the Farseek. He's not likely to need to use the Scavenging Ooze the way things are, but it is safer to keep the lands untapped.
Well, someone's going to want to tap all his mana for the...
Yeah, if he does end up attacking into the Thragtusk, he's going to end up doing that. He might not want to trade his Ooze for Daniel's 2 creatures. It's risky because if Daniel draws a removal spell, you just lose. But with the board the way it is, that will give Daniel a beast token against Timothy's nothing, except for what he drew this turn. So we've got a standoff here. And peeking ahead, it looks like Sumino drew a swamp, which is still not quite lethal.
Right. That does a point of damage.
It does a point of damage, but trading off the board here, this ends up with him at nothing versus a beast. He has to draw an answer the next turn.
Right.
It's either player's game here, depending on basically whoever draws a good spell first, which often is what the Jund mirror does come down to.
Go.
And he says, "Go."
And it's tough spacing down a 4/4 and a 5/4. So a Wolf Run, a removal spell, those are both lethal.
That looks like a Huntmaster of the Fells that Cicchetti just drew.
Yeah, which is not one of his draws that wins in the game immediately, but one of his draws that is very good. I mean, one of the reasons that Jund is a deck is Huntmaster of the Fells. It is one of it's the best 4-drop besides Olivia, but it's the best 4-drop on turn 3 or 4, and it stops aggro decks. And the fact that if your opponent doesn't have a spell and it flips, or you decide to pass and it flips, it's very insane. The Paulo Vitor Dominarosa token. Paulo's here in spirit, if not in flesh.
Yeah, it looks like maybe a Dreadbore just got drawn by Semino.
Yeah, which would have been, I think, lethal the turn before, or at least close to it, given that he would have to tap mana. But this turn, it's at least a spell. He needed any spell to keep Huntmaster from flipping, and Dreadbore is a decent one. I'd imagine he wants to kill the Scavenging Ooze here, or potentially the Huntmaster. Both are fairly good targets. He still doesn't have an excellent attack, unfortunately. Thragtusk just puts so much toughness in the way.
Yeah, and then and if he doesn't kill, if he doesn't kill the Huntmaster, then we're going to see it flip.
Yeah, if he doesn't kill the Huntmaster, then Cicchetti has the option of flipping it by just passing instead of playing whatever spell he may have drawn. But if he doesn't kill the Ooze, then they end up with, I mean, the Ooze is a much larger creature overall.
Right. Any thought to killing the Thragtusk and putting the Beast out there? Does that do anything for you, or just make sure?
Part of the problem here
Make your Ooze bigger.
is that because Dreadbore's a sorcery, he has to cast it before attacking.
Yeah.
Which gives Daniel enough information to make the blocks to not die to Wolf Run, because you again do have to tap your mana. So yeah, it looks like he's just going with the Ooze. I think that's reasonable. You're still in a lot of trouble here. In fact, let's see, you get to go up to 6 from the Ooze. If Daniel attacks with all 3 creatures, you block that Thragtusk. You go to 2, but then you eat Thragtusk, go to 3, and you don't die to the Huntmaster flip. So the game is not over. Oh, well.
Well, the game is actually now over. Was that a Kensington Wolf
It
run?
was. Well, sometimes you run good. And even though Timothy does have a card in hand, I mean, you got to figure it's not a removal spell. Had he drawn a removal spell the turn prior, he would have just wrecked you. So Daniel's going to think about it. When you're at the World Magic Cup, you don't just blindly attack. But once he thinks about it, he is going to attack. He is going to go for lethal, and he's going to win the game.
And after that skull crack incident, I think they're all going to try to sit on their hands for a couple beats before they do anything.
Dot their I's and cross their T's here. Maybe call Josh over to activate the Wolf Run. But no, I think he knows what he's doing. And we play tested with most of Team USA a couple days before the event because all the guys got here early. And I had a chance to watch Joe and Daniel both play because they were able to show up on Saturday. And I was impressed. They did a good job. Joe plays a lot of Magic Online. He knows what he's doing. Daniel was playing Jund for the most part, and I liked what I saw.
Yeah, it was clear that people held Cicchetti in pretty high regard in the sort of PTQ community.
Right. And it's hard to get to a spot like this without, at the very least, having a pretty good reputation locally. Like. Almost nobody who wins a PTQ is not known by a lot of their peers in that area, even if they haven't really hit the main stage before.
Right. There's some gruesome stuff, it looks like, going on in the Raf Levy.
Yeah, he's going off with Druid's Familiar.
We're still in game 1, shockingly, in the blue-white-red mirror.
Yeah, it's actually the straight blue-white mirror this time. Which,
Oh, it's the blue-white mirror. You're right.
Yeah,
They're both playing the deck that that Matt Nass and Jacob Wilson played with, right? Qualifiers for the next Pro Tour begin August 17th, and the format is sealed deck. You could be on the big stage for Pro Tour Born of the Gods taking place February 21st to 23rd in Valencia, Spain. For more information, visit wizards.com/PTQ.
Yeah, and so even though the deck's called Blue White Flash, that is not how fast the matches go. And when you've got the mirror, this is often what it comes down to.
And so what specifically does it come down to? I mean, what is going to be the breaker in this? Is it just is it like the old chestnut of I drew the most lands so I win, or is there something that is within the player's control? Like, is there a decision that gets made?
So it looks like these lists are actually somewhat different, and so they each have a different win condition. You can actually see one of them right now, which is
Runechanter's
Pike. Yeah, looks like Jan Guthman here has the Runechanter's Pikes, which are generally his prime threat. It's like he has Moorland Haunts, Snapcasters, Augurs, and Restoration Angels, all to go with the Pikes. On the other side, Joe has Aetherlings, and they chose to go with a pair of Aetherlings as their finishers. So Aetherling is notoriously difficult to block and somewhat difficult to kill as well. So you're going to end up seeing one player trying to use Pike to his advantage and the other trying to finish the game with Aetherling.
And no Invisible Stalker for the Pike here or anything like that?
It's not like the old aggro Delver decks that had those. I actually played that at a Grand Prix, the same one that Paulo got top 4 with. But yeah, I mean, as in most Sphinx of Revelation mirrors, if you resolve a big revelation, often that's good enough to put you far enough ahead. But I expect these games to go long, like they have, and having a Planeswalker out definitely helps in that regard. Looks like the lone Planeswalker in actually both main decks. So Jace drawing some extra cards, and
Azorius Charm, very good against Runechanter's Pike.
yeah, it can just negate whatever the Pike is on that particular turn. Looks like Joe's not really giving much thought to ultimating Jace, which is reasonable. I think just picking up more cards, especially since it looks like he already has an Aetherling in hand.
Yeah, he does.
So given that he's got an Aetherling, he already has his win condition. He just needs to find some counter spells to protect it.
Right. He's just like looking for an insurance policy.
Yeah, and he did pick up a Dissipate, it looked like there. So that'll help, deal with any potential opposition that Jan might have. Though Runechanter's Pike Moorland Haunt is a classic combo, and Jan still has a giant grip of cards.
He has a ton of cards, a ton of mana.
And has a head on life.
Yeah, took him about 8 minutes to untap all of that.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9 instants of sorceries.
So it looks like a 10-1 Runechanter's Pike. Getting terrored here with the Azorius Charm. It looks like Jan has one of Celestial Flare in his hand too. It's a nice little removal answer. And it's kind of funny, once you get an Aetherling out, even though your opponent can't actually kill it for good, cards like Celestial Flare and Azorius Charm do end up delaying your death by a turn each time.
Right.
Since you have to blink the Aetherling out, but it doesn't do any damage that turn, so...
Right, you basically need to put that Azorius Charm on an Elite Arcanist if
Yeah.
you want to actually permanently
yeah.
blank the Aetherling.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna, as usual, end up in a race when you have Aetherling against Pike, since neither can really interact with the other one.
Right.
And Jan being ahead by 18 life could prove critical here.
Here. Restoration Angel attempted. Draws a Syncopate.
And I like the Syncopate here, even though we haven't had time to really look at everything that's going on. The fact that Joe has that many lands in play means if you can Syncopate something and counter it, you really just go for the opportunity.
Right.
It's so hard to Syncopate cards when your opponent has, 6, 9, 14 lands in play.
Right, even though you might want to Syncopate a better card, you can't necessarily because of the amount of lands in play.
Yeah, the Angel is good here. It does, blink the Augur and chump a Runechanter Pike token, since, of course, Angel is not as mighty as a Spirit. But it's still definitely a good use of Syncopate. It looks like that was all in response to an Augur Bolus. As Jan picks up another Syncopate. I'm actually curious which match Josh is watching here, since his.
It's got to be watching this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the most complicated one, but on the other hand, a match like this, if you're not really into it, it's hard to end up really helping much.
Right. Oh, it does sound like the match with the Predator Ooze with 4 counters on it, the Scavenging Ooze, and the Druid's Familiar versus Boros Reckoner and Cackling Fiend is a little more complex.
Yeah,
and requires maybe some more thinking on your feet.
I can definitely understand that. A 5/5 Predator Ooze that's indestructible, facing a Boros Reckoner that can throw damage anywhere is something both players have to figure out. So
I believe it's a 7/7 Predator Ooze at the moment.
Yeah. So Josh is over there. Looks like Aetherling has come into play for him.
Yeah, just checking.
So.
You didn't remove a creature.
This one. No?
No, I accidentally moved that to the top when I thought they were mine.
Some discussion over what Moreland Haunt did end up eating. Jace's +1 doesn't look like it's going to fight against a 10-power Rune Chanter's Pike creature all that well.
But I guess, you're at 7. Every point's going to count, right?
Yeah, it's possible that it can matter, and it does stop if, in the future, Jan is going to attack with multiple creatures. It could really make that more difficult. Jace, a pretty huge player in block constructed, and as cards rotate out, I imagine it will become bigger in standard as well.
On you.
Show down to 1 card in hand. It's funny, there's a lot of different metrics in control matchups. Joe's down on cards in hand, down on life. He's up a little bit on lands, or look, they're about even, but he's up on Planeswalkers and Aetherlings, which are kind of the new standard.
But Jan's at a 25, which is
that's
a tricky number for the Aetherling, right?
Yeah, that's three hits plus an extra point of damage. That extra point might prove troublesome. This is a matchup where, as you saw, Joe put a Cavern of Souls on the bottom. Having access to Cavern of Souls is pretty big, and that's actually why the U.S. team has a second Cavern of Souls on the sideboard. So Joe is definitely attacking with Aetherling. He has to decide whether he wants to hit with anything else. If he attacks with the token this turn, it won't get blocked by a token without Pike, so he can probably get a point through unless Jan wants to play a Restoration Angel. And getting that 1 point through is something he wants to do.
We see a Detention Sphere.
Yeah, that was a very good draw, since if he can remove the second Pike, it doesn't look like Jan has any way to get either of the spheres off the board, and removing the Pike is going to make it a lot more difficult for him to kill him. Now,
that's unusual to see 2 Pikes under 2 separate Detention Spheres.
Yeah, but I don't think Jan is going to run them into a Detention Sphere, so I guess that's his only option. Looks like no fear just tapping out for Aetherling, since Joe doesn't have that many cards to play anyway. And even though Jan does have a Syncopate in hand that he knows about from the aggro bolus, it's still, I don't think he can afford to wait on the Aetherling and just do less than 8 damage, or too much less than 8 damage at least.
18.
Looks like he did 7 potentially.
I have 6 up.
So Jan went for a Restoration Angel, got it dissipated, and then was able to Syncopate in response, tapping out completely. Yeah, they have a lot of lands to play. Looks like he did miss on the Augur, though. Though he's still got a bunch of Supreme Verdicts that don't really do much, and then Azorius Charm and Celestial Flare, which, like I said earlier, are probably going to end up fogging Joe for enough time for potentially Jan to win the game with Restoration Angel.
And Joe just takes 3 here.
Yeah, we can't see Joe's graveyard. He might not have very many creatures left for Moreland Hunt, if any, since it doesn't look like he considered making another token.
Blockable.
Aetherling coming in again. Oh no, it looks like he might have a bunch of creatures, but was just not interested in making a token, or is that potentially his removed from the game pile?
I think that might have been his removed from the game pile, yeah.
Yeah, because it looked like there was a think twice there, so that might have been a card he would be interested in using if he was able to.
And here goes Celestial Flare.
It begins.
Yes. Go ahead.
It's like some sort of old school card. Untap your
Yeah.
your Aetherling. It deals no damage this turn.
Yeah, the Aetherling return trigger is not one you want to forget. Another funny thing about that too is David Ochoa in Pro Tour San Diego and Pro Tour Dragon's Maze, he got his Aetherling stolen by his opponent's Night Veil Spectre, and then when he wrathed, his opponent flickered it out, so it comes back on David's side, since that is how Aetherling works.
Joe is in a spot here.
Yeah, looks like he's facing lethal from the Angel plus the token unless he draws something this turn. Which may have been another Angel. That would be the kind of card he needs to get himself out of it.
Blockable.
Sure. 4.
I like this. I think like hitting for 4 puts you on a 2-turn clock because you can just do 7 a turn afterwards. And this is the turn where if he doesn't resolve this, then he's gonna end up losing. So yeah, he did draw the Angel there, and now.
End of turn. Token.
Jan's Moreland Hunt has an inexhaustible supply of fodder, apparently.
Attack. Sure.
Ooh. Well, Sphinx Revelation is not a card you generally want to turn down. Joe might actually be getting low on library here, so it's potential that Azorius Charm is the play, especially since it's much cheaper. But if he has the time and cards left in deck, Sphinx Revelation definitely gets him out of this better.
And you see Josh pointing
To the Azorius Charm.
to the Azorius Charm, yeah.
Well, Josh has a bird's eye view of this game. Be interesting to see what Josh is saying. Most likely take the Azorius Charm. So they're deep in debate here. This is one of the interesting parts about teams is that you end up actually getting to discuss a lineup play, which you don't normally get to do,
Yeah.
especially a premier event like this.
Yeah. So he does show him the Azorius Charm. Sheldon estimates that there's about 10 to 12 cards left in Joe's deck at this point.
That would make sense. Given that's the case, you might be better off just not taking that.
Take 2.
1.
So one of the plays they might go for here is actually the lifelink mode of Azorius Charm, which you don't see that often. But
Oh, wow, yeah.
with Aetherling and Restoration Angel, if Joe gains 11 life here, then he's going to be well on his way to winning. Unfortunately, Jan does have another Azorius Charm, so he's going to be able to potentially blunt the Aetherling from dealing damage. And a Syncopate is going to be tough to counter a 2-mana card with.
Well, especially when you've pumped all of that mana and, and the lifelink of the Azorius Charm into your Aetherling.
Yeah, Joe is going to have to tap a lot of mana here, and it looks like that's what he's going for. But he can cast the Azorius Charm first. And then,
Let's see. 3 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4.
but Jan with what, 8, 12, 16 mana up. Joe's not going to be able to syncopate him for 15 if he just casts Azorius Charm and taps no other mana.
But he doesn't seem to be pumping any mana into his Aetherling. Seems pretty content to maybe do something smaller.
Yeah, I think he wants to try to leave as much mana up for Syncopate as possible, and he doesn't really need to survive more than one other turn. Though if he doesn't pump Aetherling, that maybe increases his clock to 2. So I suspect he's going to want to pump Aetherling at least 3 times here. Even with only 10 10 to 12 cards left in his library, it might have been slightly safer to go for Sphinx's Revelation just because of this particular interaction with Azorius Charm. So it looks like he's making an 8. Getting Azorius Charms, and that should be the game because Joe drew an Aetherling this turn, which is not the dissipate he needed. Sometimes Syncopate's not a hard counter, even when you have 15 lands in play.
Une gagne la 1.
He had the Azorius charm.
Ouais, j'ai.
So, Joe confirmed to Josh that he had the Azorius Charm.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Stone upside down.
Sorry.
Hey, you can play Magic at a store near you every Friday. Earn Planeswalker points and battle against your friends in Friday Night Magic. August's Friday Night Magic promo card is Dimir Charm. Visit wizards.com/FNM to find a store near you. So we are going to go back and catch Game 3 between Hall of Famer Raphael Levy and relatively inexperienced Jason Gulovich.
Yeah, it looks like the classic, as we were saying, the red-green mirror. As both decks, going beat down, though, it looks like Raph's deck's a little more suited to going big.
Yeah, well, he can, I was watching him out of the corner of my eye on this one monitor, and he's just holding the ground with Predator Ooze and Ratchet Bombs and, all sorts of stuff. So he can play more of a mid-rangey kind of game.
Yeah,
Which is generally Red's weak spot, right?
Right. I mean, Red has the advantage in the first couple turns, especially since Gulovich has Burning Tree Emissaries in his deck, and if he gets a good Burning Tree Emissary draw, then he's going to get far ahead of Raph.
There we see a young wolf.
Yeah, Rob Stark himself as, Young Wolf is actually very good in this matchup. It just chumps the first time, gaining you 2 life essentially.
Trades the second
and then
time.
trades the second time.
Yeah.
Pair of Cacklers with their glass beads, it looks like.
That looks like it could be a ring.
Yeah. Raph, I think he drew Revenge of the Hunted, his miracle card, almost miracled it, but then realized Rakdos Cackler can't block, since the whole purpose of that is to make it so his opponent can block. That might, it went pretty fast,
Yeah.
but if that's what happened, that would be pretty funny.
You're going to get Revenge of the Hunted up on the card picker, 'cause it's not a card we've seen a lot of.
There we go. So Raph just getting aggressive here. Along with a Strangler Geist that declined to attack.
Aggressive and then passive aggressive.
Yeah. No, it's certainly right to leave Strangler Geist black because you want to block here, but it is funny because that card usually enters the battlefield tapped.
Yeah. It is suffering from vertigo right now.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's a bunch of cards that I wasn't expecting to see. Is that a rubble? That's a Rubble Belt Malka.
Yeah, they're actually playing 3, but Rubble Belt Malkas in the main deck, which is a limited standout. But Josh had them in his Boros deck at Pro Tour Dragon's Maze, and it's been a good card. It's good against removing blockers. It's a Giant Growth when you need a Giant Growth because you only really need it when attacking, and sometimes it's a Hill Giant when you've got nothing better to do.
Best common in that draft for first pick.
I preferred to first pick, slightly sweeter cards, but it was definitely up there. I think that and Punish the Enemy were really close to each other.
Yeah.
So Raph kind of showing off the power of Undying here, since Jason could Flames both his creatures, then they'd both come back bigger.
It sounds like Simino has evened things up against Cicchetti on the back table.
Well, here come the squad.
I think we might just see a red Giant Growth here.
Yeah, I think almost no matter which one gets blocked here, Rubble Mach is going to be used. Raph, think about it a little while, but I think blocking the Mutavault has some advantages. Knocking your opponent down from being able to cast Hellrider or potentially Thundermaw Hellkite if he did bring it in is nice. Though Mutavault does cost mana to activate, so if you think that the next turn Jason's going to want to play a 3-drop, maybe just blocking one of the Rakdos Cacklers is better. It's kind of hard to resist Stone Raining, though, which is what Raph goes for. Interesting. It looks like they're choosing to save the Roll-Up Mock and just play Stormkirk Noble instead.
Yep.
Hoping for path or Flames of the Firebrand to clear a path next turn.
It almost looked like, to some extent, Josh was pointing at something, talking about having 1 mana, like maybe making him think it's going to be the giant growth effect, and really wants to play the other creatures. And so we see another young wolf, and now the wall is manned.
Yeah.
2 young wolves and a Stranglegeist.
Yeah, and I mean Levy's like his goal here is to survive until he can start casting his 4 and 5 casting house cards. Like Wolf Hero Silverheart does a lot of work in this matchup. And eventually he can get it to Revenge of the Hunted, though. I think Levy is actually on not a ton of other spells. If we take a look at his hand here, he's got Revenge of the Hunted and 3 forests, so I don't think that he's incredibly happy about this scenario, since Gulovich is certainly on a bunch of spells. Josh helping Jason here because they consider the board state.
No matches are concluded yet.
It sounded with the other match at 1 apiece and the U.S. down 1 in the blue-white flash mirror. This match is very important. Huh. The Hunted will have their revenge, apparently.
So he miracles it.
Yeah, miracles are good. Now it's funny because now in the blink of an eye, Levy could actually turn into the aggressor here. He could, since he knows that the 2 Stormkirk Nobles have to block, he could actually just beat down with a bunch of creatures if he so desires.
And it looks like that is what he's going to do. So it's +6/+6, lure and trample.
Yeah.
14.
Yeah, he's even bringing in the Mutavault.
Yeah, I think most attacks involve Mutavault here. He doesn't want to lose his land, so maybe like a Searing Spear could be a consideration. But then again, if Revenge of the Hunted resolved on the Young Wolf, which it did,
right,
there's definitely no Searing Spear in his future. So it looks like he's gonna leave the Strangleroot guys and Mutavault back because they both trade for Rakdos Cackler.
Right.
Sending in the Young Wolves that would just be chumping.
For once in his life, the Crackler.
It's funny that unleashes an advantage here. It would be actually way worse for Gulovich if he had to block with the Rakdos Cacklers.
Yeah.
Instead, he's still taking a good 7-point chunk of damage and
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that
6-point chunk of damage and just
It's interesting that the line of play Raf's taken in this game has put Gulovich into a position where he's pacified his own
Rakdos Cacklers.
his own Rakdos
No
Cacklers.
attacks, no blocks.
Yeah.
Drawing a Lightning Mauler isn't bad, but it's still really hard to assemble good attacks here. Roll-Up Maka helps. Just bashing with everything is likely what you want to do, but that Revenge of the Hunted really did make it a lot harder on Jason.
Ref is at 14.
And even though he's got a Mutavault and a Strangleroot, guys, he really doesn't want to block the Mutavault because if he draws a 5-drop next turn, he wants to be able to cast it. And if he's got a Revenge of the Hunted in hand that he's got to be looking at trying to finish the game with.
Yeah.
But he's a few turns away from that. I bet he's regretting attacking with that second Young Wolf now. If he had that back, this attack would not work. You could just trade with Lightning Mauler, so it would force Jason to send in with just the Rakdos Cacklers. The one disadvantage of team communication is now, even if you don't use it, there's no way Raph thinks you don't have it. Though that opens the door for some kind of sick bluffs where later, in the tournament, you ask that question when your hand is 2 mountains.
Right. And Gulovich showed that's within his range. I mean, in the match against the Czech team, he held a land for a turn, and then next turn drew the second burn spell and played a land like he had just drawn the land. And that certainly lulled Stan into thinking that it was okay to tap 7 mana for his Forbidden Alchemy, or not.
or begin to. So yeah, that was definitely in their favor. So now, especially given that Raph has not drawn another giant creature to play, he's going to want to sit back and kind of play a defensive role. He's not. The math doesn't really add up to kill Gulovich here. and maybe hit him for 4 down to 9, and then he gets hit down to 3, and then he can Revenge of the Hunted and not quite kill him, hit him for 8. And that's assuming, Gulovich doesn't play any, awesome cards on his turn, and he's got a card in hand. Luckily for Raph, Flames of Firebrand doesn't remove these Young Wolves as blockers. All it does is upgrade them, so he has that going for him. He's not able to just die to the attack next turn. Raph certainly likes attacking. He likes playing these decks where you get to attack with small creatures. I mean, he likes the combo decks. I've certainly seen him play his fair share.
Sure.
But I've often seen him go back to the well of, kind of low curve aggressive decks.
And has always liked the mono green decks. I mean, going all the way back to Legion Land Loss.
Oh, man, that deck with Creeping Molds and Stampeding Wildebeest and Wall Roots.
Yeah. That's one of his earliest Grand Prix successes.
Yeah, didn't Manuel Bavon play that as well?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I think Alex Schwartzman as well.
So still working out all the permutations of attacks and blocks here, since I mean these are the games where you're really counting on Mutavault to do a couple extra points of damage here and there, every now and then block, and Mutavault is kind of why a deck like Mono Green really has gotten a boost. It's in both these monocolor aggressive decks.
Yeah, I mean we see it in Gulovich's deck. Just also turns on Firefist Striker.
Yeah, and Hellrider. It's a combo with both those cards.
Like. Very reluctant fighters on Raph Levy's team. They're kind of...
they're going back.
Yeah.
So, for sure he wants to leave one wolf back to block Lightning Baller. His big internal debate is whether, am I really chumping Rakdos Cackler or am I not? So, he's bashing for 3. I think the Mutavault was attacking just about no matter what. The other Young Wolf, maybe not quite so much. Ah, he drew a Prey Upon. That is not a card I've seen cast since a 40-card deck.
I did not see him draft that.
No. It's a good first pick, though, and that lets his 1/1 Young Wolf fight the Lightning Baller and come back as a 2/2, leaving him with 2 blockers.
Right. Kill your guy, untap my guy. There we see Firefist Striker, which is maybe a little bit of a problem.
That Prey Upon makes the game much, much closer. It takes one of Gulovich's creatures out, grows Raph's creature, and let Raph hit for an extra point of damage there. So now with Revenge of the Hunted in play, or in hand, Raph does, he has some room to maneuver. So if Gulovich wants to play Firefist Striker, the real question is, does he attack with the 2 Cacklers, trading off for a Young Wolf and maybe dealing 2 or upgrading the other Young Wolf in the process?
Well, I mean, there's not really any... Well, I mean, I guess the value, their own inherent value, but there's no value in leaving them back. He's just going to do it first.
I like casting the Flames here. I think that this gets rid of both Young Wolves because Raph has a pretty good chance of blocking here. I mean, he might not because of the Revenge, but it does let the Flames essentially kill both Young Wolves, put you in this kind of the same position, but with less creatures in play. And with cards like Prey Upon and Revenge of the Hunted, you really don't want Raph to have guys to target. So even though you don't like going to low life totals against Mono Red, one of Raph's lines of play that is pretty aggressive here is just take the damage, attack back for 4, and set up a Revenge of the Hunted kill. Makes a lot of assumptions about what Gulovich could have. It actually puts you to 1 if you don't draw anything.
But sometimes you have to put yourself to 1, right? Sometimes you have to go, well, if he has it, I'm just going to die anyway.
Yeah, and Raph just has to think whether, if he trades here, he's playing for the longer game, but it doesn't necessarily favor him, especially if he thinks the last card in Gulovich's hand is a spell. Because there aren't that many spells that save you from an 8/8 coming in, so it looks like he is going to go ahead and trade. Going to 1 was not something he could stomach. Revenge of the Hunted does mean, though, if Raph does draw, a giant creature of some kind, then he's in really good shape just to deal lethal. And drawing a Strangleroot Geist right there is really good for him.
Thinking.
Again, I mean, he's got himself dead to a Hellrider. Land Hellrider does end up killing Raph if he attacks with both creatures here.
So we do have the first result in. Team United States, Daniel Cicchetti has defeated Timothy Simino on the back table.
The Jund Mirror reached its conclusion somehow before the 2 monocolor aggro mirror. Though I guess they did get held for a little while.
we see the post-combat Strangleroot Geist.
Once again.
The tethered Geist.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Obviously, I
think
obviously understand it. It's just something you don't see
yeah,
a
no,
lot
no.
of.
In both cases, I like the play, but it is funny that haste is, you're paying for the haste, but you're not using it.
Right, we're seeing hasty creatures not attacking, and we're seeing unleashed creatures not doing anything, and correctly. Oh, he did draw a Hell Rider.
Yeah, he drew a lightning mauler, so it is tough because he's got to play the striker here. He certainly cannot attack with the Rakdos Cackler, but if Raph casts a Revenge of the Hunted here that puts Gulovich to 1 and kills the lightning striker.
He just drew another Mutavault.
That was actually a really good draw, since if he does want to cast Revenge here, again, he's still dead to land Hellrider, and he's got to suspect that the card in Jason's hand could be a Hellrider because he's never hit a 4th land.
Right.
I mean, the Mutavault died sometime before. So the question is, do you put yourself dead to that, or do you just attack for 2, set up Revenge of the Hunted to win next turn? With Fire Fist Striker out, though, you're really going to die to Hellrider no matter what. So...
Wow, time has been called.
Interesting, and that means that the blue-white flash mirror can only end in 2 ways, really. It can end with France winning, or it can end with maybe them drawing if Joe Spanier can take game 2.
And he is on turn 0 as we speak.
So unless they finished a game and we didn't hear about it,
Yeah.
which is highly unlikely, it looks like that match is not going to end in a U.S. victory, though the entire match still might.
So Jason Gulovich only has to defeat Hall of Famer Raphael Levy. Takes 2 and goes to
Well,
6.
Mutavault does get around Fire Fist Striker, so Raph's got some options here, and actually he played this really well in that he does get around Hellrider now that he's got just the 2 Mutavaults back, because he can let the Fire Fist Striker target nothing essentially, and then chump the Hellrider, block one of the other creatures, go to 2, and then kill Jason on the attack back. So even though Jason has Lightning Baller and Stormkirk Noble here, I think Revenge of the Hunted might end up killing Raph, because once you play the last card in hand, he's able to have perfect information. Of course, if you didn't do that, then now if he loses a Mutavault, he might not be able to cast Revenge of the Hunted if both his Mutavaults end up dying. One good thing for Raph, though, is that Lightning Bolt is not in the format, so unless you're worried about a second Robo-Belt Maka, you can block one of the 2/2s and go to 3 and put yourself dead to, again, of all cards, Robo-Belt Maka. So it looks like Raph might give up on the Revenge of the Hunted plan and block with both Mutavaults and just go to 5. This really comes down to just that one card here.
Here, so he's thinking about it still.
Yeah. Since, I mean, he's got to know what he's dead to, and he's got to know that if he doesn't block with the other Mutavault, he will win the game if, I was going to say Josh, if Jason does not have the Robo-Belt Maka, though. I mean, the deck list is in Josh's handwriting, to be fair.
Yeah, this is the same situation we saw with Team USA versus Team Czech Republic, where Stanislav Sivka was not getting any advice from his teammates.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a little bit of the same thing here with Raph Levy,
Where
they're kind of sitting back and watching.
Yeah, and I think that's reasonable. Raph's been playing the game from the beginning. He also certainly knows his way around cards. And in a game like this, you really have to think, what can your opponent have? And you really have to just think over the last bunch of turns and kind of the body language, which Raph is very good at. So it looks like Raph is going to take the gamble, which does put him to winning this game, since we do know that Jason does not have a Robo-Belt Maka in hand. He just asked, actually. Oh, it looks like maybe he hasn't made his decision.
No, he
yet.
has not. He has not made the decision yet.
He knows one's going in.
And he tried to get some information out of Gulovich, maybe get a read, but he just can't really tell what "that's for me to know and you to find out" means.
Yeah. And this is where Jason might have an advantage. He hasn't actually played at many of these events, so Raph hasn't had time to actually get good reads on him. If Raph was playing against someone he's played 5 or 10 times, maybe he'd know.
Yeah. Right. He ultimately decided to try to go for the win.
Yeah, I think this is a very reasonable approach to take. You do lose to Robo-Belt Maka, the second one, which you think they might not be playing 4. It's not a very standard card.
Right.
And if you don't do this, you don't win this turn and you lose to any number of other cards.
Was that? Yeah, that was the.
Yeah, the hunted had their revenge, and it looks like Ref.
That is the groan of someone who just lost to Revenge of the Hunted.
Yeah, so looks like this match is 1-1, and looks like they may not even be they're declining to finish the blue-white flash match.
I was like, God, they told me that you have to win. Like, okay.
Show off your Magic colors by purchasing new Planeswalker apparel at mtgmerch.com. So I assume that you're looking at that Jace shirt.
Yeah, I haven't purchased it yet, but I actually own most of the Magic Guild shirts, so I might end up.
Okay, so this we're back on the floor, and this has concluded in a tie.
J'ai pas joué mon meilleur Magic.
Those were good games.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Brian David Marshall, Luis Scott Vargas. We just watched Revenge of the Hunted, Prey Upon, and Rubble Belt Malka.
All played deciding roles in that match.
Young Wolves and non-attacking Strangleroot guys. A very strange matchup between two of the decks that people weren't necessarily looking at.
Yeah,
as the main players in Team Unified Standard.
The mono red deck is a little bit more known, though not always with Rubble Belt Maka.
Yeah.
The mono green deck is something that flies a little under the radar. I mean, people are aware of it, but I haven't seen very many copies, and they certainly don't always play Young Wolves and Revenge of the Hunted.
Right. I didn't even see it. Was Ralph playing? Like, one of the reasons people talked about the green deck being good is that you got Elvish Mystics, so that you could play your Predators on turn 2. Is he playing that many? I didn't see a lot of elves.
He's actually playing 8 1-drop elves that tap from him. He's not playing Abyssin's Pilgrim because those don't cast Scavenging Oozes, or rather the Predator Oozes very well. But he does have the other package of elves, and he doesn't go quite as big as like the Elf Ball deck that we saw earlier.
Right.
But he does still accelerate out, kind of like the mid-range Wolfear Silverheart type creature.
Right, and he does have Elvish Archdruid, like that deck does as well, to do some... have some really disgusting turn mana like around turn 4.
Yeah, and so even though he's kind of the aggressive deck in a lot of matchups, like against Jund or Blue-White, against the mono-red deck, he's not really the aggressive deck. You saw him holding back with the Strangleroot guys, with the Young Wolves, only really attacking when he had Revenge of the Hunted going, and pecking in with Mutavaults for couple points of damage here and there.
It was very, very interesting to watch him sort of like the feints and blows of that match as he was, picking his spots to get in there and set up that huge turn with Revenge of the Hunted at the end of the game.
And as Mutavault's back in Standard, a whole new generation of players are going to learn when you attack the Mutavault, when you don't, when you worry about opposing removal, when you just get in for an extra 2. Sometimes, the turn when Mutavault turn to attack is actually a play you made quite often in Fairies.
Right, and at the end there, he had those 2 Mutavaults that he could have. He's like, do I want to risk going this low against a deck with mountains? He knows he needs 6 mana for the Revenge of the Hunted.
So if he loses both, he's not casting it there.
Right. It was very, very, very interesting. Is that mono green deck a deck you could ever see yourself playing in Standard?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind playing mono green beats every now and then. It's not a deck I picked up very often, but I do like Elvish Archdruid and all the elves that come with it. Also the Druid's Familiars, which is another unconventional choice. When Wolfear Silverhearts 1 through 4 is not enough.
Yeah, well, Wolfear Silverheart's been, a fantastic card. So, +2 is obviously not as exciting, but I've also had Wolfear Silverheart stick in my hand.
Yeah, having a curve is important when you're building any aggro deck. So I don't think it's necessarily that Raph says like I need Wolfear Silverhearts 5 and 6. It's more like I need some 4-drops. What goes well with my plan? And he has actually 4 Rancors in the deck, so pumping any of your guys is very valuable when you've got Trample.
Right. Trample, one of my favorite mechanics.
As Ben Stark was talking to us earlier about how bad Trample is.
He's he's a really good player. He can figure this stuff out. I'm not as good. Sometimes I just need a really big guy that just runs through things. So, what are your impressions there now that we've seen 3 rounds of Team Unified Standard? What is this a format that you would you would like to tackle?
Oh yeah, I would love to have a tournament where I get to play Unified Standard. I think we've seen a pretty good diversity of decks. I was expecting a lot of Jund and Blue White Red, and we've seen a good amount of it. But watching teams put together like straight Blue White because of Burning Earth and because of dual land considerations, and a range of decks from Hexproof to Jund Zombies.
All right, well, that is the end of action for the day. And of course, everything's going to be available for replay in about 30 minutes after we're done. Spoiler free. I mean, spoilers, though, if you've been watching. Right now, we're going to toss it back to the desk.
Hey, thanks BDM and LSV. Great stuff in the booth, as always, from those two. Speaking of great stuff, we have a lot of the results coming in. This is going to shape who's going to make it to the second day of the top 32. Rich? Brief us.
Yeah, so here's the thing, Marshall. It's a little bit complicated, not going to lie. The way we see things shaping up at the moment is that you are looking at possibly as many as 33 teams getting to 12 points or better, right? 33 teams and 32 teams get to come back tomorrow. So let's do some certainties. Let's start from the top. Well, Ireland have beaten Chile, and that guarantees that Ireland will be a #1 seed. Huge kudos to them. When they got a bye in round one, I thought to myself, that's possibly the best thing that's happened to Irish Magic in 10 years. Well, it's been a better day now, hasn't it? Well done, Ireland. Great job. 2-1 over Chile, 19 points, undefeated, the only undefeated record of the day. Brilliant stuff. Well done. Now, Chile, although they lost, this is Felipe Tapia Becerra, the Rookie of the Year, they're still comfortably through on 15 points. We'll see their seeding in the end of day wrap that follows this last segment. We'll do all the number crunching and we will reveal all 8 pods with the seeding, and seeding matters, at the end of the show. Raf Levy and the United States, you've just seen France and the USA come to a grinding standstill against each other, 1-1 and 1. They were both comfortably through. They will go to 16 points, very likely top seeds for both of those. Singapore have defeated Mexico. Singapore goes to 6-1. Fantastic for them. Mexico, again, in long ago into day 2. Dalibor Trunka, the national champion for them. They are in. Seeding we'll have to see on the big board in a little while. Now, Austria against Iceland. This has just come in. This was a huge one. David Reitbauer and co for the Austrians. They have beaten Iceland. They go to 16 points. I think that will make Austria one of your 8 top seeds for the pods tomorrow morning. Remember, this is RTR Team Limited that they come back to do for 3 rounds in a round robin within their pod. Then, well, remember I talked about Australia IDing earlier? Well, they won this time against the Czech Republic, but although the Czech Republic remain on 12 points, pretty sure that means they're likely to get through. Then you had a whole bunch of teams that decided not to play the last round. Venezuela, Thailand, Greece, Hungary, South Africa, Croatia, New Zealand, Estonia, they all chose to intentionally draw, get themselves a point. They wanted to try and be above any of the 12 pointers. Now, honestly, I'm not sure the tie breaks work quite the way they think they might. So that felt like a missed opportunity to leapfrog from maybe, let's say, seed number 26 going into tomorrow, maybe all the way up to number 12, say, and that would be the result of 1 extra match win you wouldn't have to get in the morning potentially. Because in the morning, if you're on the same record as another team in the group after those 3 rounds, if you are a higher seed, you advance, they get shown the trap door. So seeding, just ridiculously important. Now, on we go. Luxembourg, Belarus, they ID'd. The Slovak Republic, even float, we kind of lost track of them during the day, but they've just defeated Finland, and as a result, they go up to 15. They may yet be a top seed. Flop didn't look like he had a vintage team. Remember, their former team world champion from Chiba in 2010. Didn't think they'd necessarily go the distance this time, but it looks like they could be as high as a #1 seed. Now we're into elimination, because the 3 and 3s knew that if they lost, they would be 3 and 4 and out the door for sure. So this was a straight up, here we go, honest to God, elimination shootout. We begin with Turkey against Peru. Emir Alimoglu, the Turkish national captain, 2-0 to Turkey. Peru go home. Turkey will be back tomorrow. They were voting for Christmas. Serbia against England. England wins by 2-1 over Serbia. Andy Devine just had a second child, already had Lily. You guessed it, child number 2, Jace. Well done to Andy Devine, well done to England. We'll see them back tomorrow. Now, if you're a soccer fan, or football as we like to call it, can you imagine a more mouth-watering clash than Brazil against Argentina? That's an incredible matchup. In soccer terms, not bad in Magic either. You had Willie Adel, you had Alisson Abe for Brazil. The Brazilians advance. Argentina are done here at the World Magic Cup. What about Belgium? We kind of lost track of them a little bit. They've really been in the middle of the pack all day long. Vincent Lemoyne with his Pro Tour Top 8 from Paris 2011. Moraine Libert, 4 Pro Tour Top 8s, 07, 08, 09, 2010, in this very building indeed. Well, Belgium have advanced. They've defeated Ecuador in the last round. Pretty sure Belgium will get through at 4-3. But as we start totting up these 4-3s, it looks to us here at MagicTheGathering.com like there will be 33 teams on 4-3 or better. So somebody is going to miss out in the tiebreak shuffle. Who will it be? We'll go to the big board when we have the final announcement of the pods for you for tomorrow. Someone at 4-3 is going home shattered in 33rd place. Ukraine against Germany. Mike Krasnitsky up against Jonas Kussler for Germany. Kussler went down. Krasnitsky and Ukraine advance by 2-1. Ukraine will be back tomorrow, or at least in that 4-3 mix. Also 4-3, Israel, Shahar Shenhar. The double is still on. He's back on Sunday already as part of the 4 players in the World Championship semi-finals, along with Reed Dew, Ben Stark, and your Player of the Year, Josh Adelaide, who of course is also involved in this little shindig. Crazy times for those two, and we think Israel may well be through. Slovenia, what an upset this is. Robin Dolar and chums, they have defeated Japan by 2-1, and that guarantees whatever else happens in the tiebreaks, Japan are gone. There will be no Japanese title this time around. Slovenia are at 4-3. Rick Lee, the Malaysian national champion, he's led his team to victory over Hong Kong. That means Li Shi Chan is done for the weekend. He was in the World Magic Cup the first 2 days of Worlds Week. He played today for Hong Kong, but it's Malaysia who go to 4-3. El Salvador, this is only their second time fielding a full team here at the World Magic Cup and as a team, and they have beaten Macedonia to go to 4-3. 2 more results to bring you, and this is just huge. Right at the start of the day, who did we say were the favourites for this whole event on paper? We said it was Sweden. We told you about Hall of Famer Ola Rada. We told you about the Pro Tour Gatecrash runner-up Joe Larson. We told you about the Swedish pro Elias Watsfeld and Joachim Ahlberg, and we said they are monster on paper. And then they lost, and they lost, and they lost. They were at 0-3 coming into Constructed. Now 1-3, 2-3, 3-3, just come in. They've beaten the home team, the Netherlands, to go 4-3, but will it be enough? Because tie breaks, they were terrible because they kept losing at the beginning. They might be 32nd, they might be 33rd, and just heartbreakingly outside the pods for tomorrow. We'll get to them. In Marshall's ear, we're waiting for the news that the pods exist. One more result to bring you. It's 7 times world's team competitor Saul Alvarado of Panama up against Scotland. They had their number 1 and number 3 of all time. Bradley Barkley number 3, Stephen Murray number 1 as part of their team. Scotland have prevailed. They've gone to 4-3. That is every result that matters here at the World Magic Cup, round 7. 33 teams are waiting to find out which of the 32 slots have their name written on it in just a few minutes from now. Marshall, it's back to you.
Hey, thanks, Rich. Great stuff. Have a chance to kind of quiet down a little bit, have a chat with David Reitbauer. Hi, David. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty fine.
Yeah. Now, can you talk us through a little bit about how your day went from a large perspective?
Yeah, it went pretty good. After all, we are 5-1-1.
Yeah, that's very good.
So we had a mediocre seal pool, but we managed to do 3-0.
Okay.
So that was great. And going into the standard round, we had a draw first round, and now we had a very traumatic win at the end of the tournament to go 5-1-1. It was like we were at 7 life, opponent was at 6 life, and we were exactly able to deal 6 damage because they forgot 1 Garruk token.
Oh wow!
In the 5th or 4th extra turn, and so we were able to last turn static cast their end of turn, wipe their board of 1/1 tokens, and then attack for exactly the damage we needed and won. So we were all like going crazy.
Intense moments. Now, during the team sealed, were you in the playing seat or were you coaching?
I was in the playing seat on B.
And then in the team unified constructed, were you also playing?
I was also playing, yes.
So in team sealed, what deck did you end up playing?
I ended up playing a blue and white deck, which features 2 Sarah Angels, 1 Ajani, and the bomb for 7 mana that lets you tap so many creatures you want for
Devout Invocation?
Yeah.
And how is that card?
It's really good. It's not that good against black or black-red, but in all the other matchups, I think it's insane good because you can stall the board as long as you like if you know you have the card in hand, and then just make 4 tokens or 5, and the game is over the next turn, basically.
Yeah, that card seems very powerful. We did see a lot of mono-black or nearly mono-black decks in that sealed portion. Did your team run one of those?
We also ran one of those, but it's one of the. It was the worst deck of all the 3 of ours.
Okay.
We did a lot of practice. We made like 4 or 5 sealed pools and played with them. So we saw immediately that the deck was not that good. It was definitely the deck Thomas Holzinger played, which was the best, which was green and red.
Oh yeah.
And mine was the second best, which had like 2 bomb rares and some good creatures.
Okay.
But the mono black was not that good. We had no corrupt and we had only 1 Quack Sickness. So.
Oh yeah, and those are the cards that generally would draw you to that kind of deck. Now, talk to us a little bit about the unified constructed portion. How did the deck build go for you guys? Did you put a lot of work into testing? Was it a last minute thing as everybody got here? How did it work out?
There was some mixture in between. It was like a last-minute switch yesterday night. We wanted to play Junt in the first place because I really like to play Junt.
You do, yeah.
Yeah. But in the end, we switched to the deck Brian Kibble played at the Invitational.
The red-green deck?
Yeah, and so we were able to play our Aristocrats deck. We have a very special Aristocrats deck, which is basically the black-white human deck and the Falconrat Aristocrat, which pushes it over the top. And I don't know why people aren't playing this card because it's so good in this matchup.
You know, that is weird that you say that. I haven't seen it that much on the coverage. I've been watching, of course, like everybody else. But.
Because most of the creatures are humans, and you also want to have additional sack outlets for the Extended Necromancer.
Yes.
And so we thought, if we don't play Chant, we have enough mana fixing for the third deck to be Aristocrats and just splash for the Falconrat Noble. Falconrat Aristocrats.
So
awesome.
what was the other deck then?
The other deck was the control deck, just blue white red flash.
Oh yeah, and that's a deck that we saw a lot of people play. Although it was often paired with Jund, and then something else would fill that last slot.
We considered it. There's hardly any chance that you cannot play the flash deck because you have all the good matchups you want. If the other person plays Chant, it's a decent matchup, and we wanted to have that.
Okay.
And if you have some other creature matchups, it's also okay.
Okay.
So.
Well, David, thanks a lot for your time and congratulations on making it into the second day in really good position. And we're going to bring in Sean Fitzgerald. From Ireland. All right, so you can go over there, and then I'll just bring you in live here on the air, Sean. How's it going, Sean and Marshall?
Very good, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Take a seat. All right, I just asked David a bunch of questions. I'm going to ask you a bunch of similar questions.
Okay.
So from a high level, how's your day?
Fantastic.
Yes.
Amazing.
So what's your record going into day 2?
601. We are yet to be defeated. Yeah. We are as stunned as everybody else is.
Now, so
pretty exciting.
Based on that statement, was that above expectation for what you figured coming in?
Definitely we didn't think we'd be undefeated. We knew that we had the ability to make day 2.
Yes.
We had a limited specialist on our team with Marcin Sisinski. He's like top 8 at the GP this year. He's consistently good on the limited scene. So we knew limited, we'd have a strong point there. He'd be able to build a deck, push us through. We were confident in our constructed choices.
So why don't you talk to us a little bit about those constructed choices?
All right, what we're going with is Stefano Rampini is playing American Control.
Okay, that's a deck we've seen in most of the teams.
Exactly, yeah. Then in the middle we have the new Elf Ball deck. That's David Tweet is playing that.
Okay.
And I'm playing
So
Jund.
that's mono green with the new big Garruk?
Exactly, yeah. Splashing white for Township, basically, and a few sideboard cards.
Okay.
And I'm going with Jund. And we decided on those decks, I think, Wednesday.
So not too long ago. That was
Not
only a
yeah.
couple of days ago.
We were quite set before that. We were set on.
So what were you on then?
We were set on Bant, red green aggro, and blue white control.
So what made you change?
We were luckily enough, three of us from the team live in the same region. Myself, David, and Marcin all live in Dublin, and David is out in Galway. And we told David, right, you're playing bank control, so you test that lots. We'll test our decks, blah blah. So then we started testing against the Gauntlet. We had seen Huey Jensen do well with Els, so we're like, well, he's quite famous, you know, that people are probably going to pick up that
He's
deck.
a Hall of Fame electee.
Exactly, yeah. He probably knows what he's doing when he picks a deck.
Yes.
So we should probably test against that. So we started testing, and it just beat everything we had.
It was just awesome.
It was
and
just
how did
so
it perform
powerful.
for you guys today? Was it really good?
It was amazing. David just won the last round there against Chile. He got us through on that one. The only kind of questionable stumble we had with it was against Austria, our draw, where we missed a trigger with Voice of Resurgence. It was a complicated combat situation.
Oh, yeah.
They played a trick. We were so focused on trying to get around it that we completely missed the elemental token.
And so I'm curious about this because I saw this a lot. Was there multiple of your team members conferring on one decision on that, or was it just one player playing?
No, we conferred on everything,
Yeah.
absolutely everything. Like Marcin sat out for the constructed, and he sat in between. Obviously, you would do all the automatic plays yourself, but if anything ever complicated came up, you would always confer.
Yes, of course.
We conferred each other for mulligans at the start, you know, unless it was an obvious snap key.
Yeah.
And I've never played Jund before. I only picked it up on Wednesday.
Oh, jeez.
And I've never played with Miracle cards before, or Huntmaster.
A few
So
adjustments
there's
there.
a few triggers that I'm not used to looking
Yes.
for.
Okay.
So luckily I have Marcin on my shoulder every turn going, draw slowly,
Yes.
draw slowly.
Well, you guys are in a great position going into the next
Yeah,
day, and
definitely.
hopefully we'll see you in Dublin at a later date.
I hope so,
potentially.
definitely.
All right. Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I am told that we are ready now for the end of day wrap over at the wall. Rich Hagan, Brian David Marshall. Let's hear it.